We're ready to get started with part 3 of how to build a Kenya top bar hive. What I have is 3 of these 1x12 boards 4 foot long. I laid them out and measured them. 2 of them look good, 1 of them is a little bit short. So this is the short one. I'll use this to cut out the 2 ends of the hive. We'll go ahead and get started by cutting this one first. Okay, so we're going to make the ends. We need 2 pieces that are 18 inches long. Well, the first thing we want to do is make sure they're square, or reasonably square. That looks pretty good. So we can measure off 18 inches and cut this off. So now we have 2 pieces. There's the ends of the hive, ready to go. Okay, we're using our follower boards we made in part 2. This follower board on the other end lines right up with the ruler so we know that they're in the same spot. And I'm going to take the board for the side and place that right on there, because we're using this as a jig. So here goes our board. This distance from the edge of the follower to the end of the board needs to be the same on both sides. I'm just going to use a little tack hammer. Put this nail in here at an angle. You want it to hold that board in place. Now that you've got your nails in all 4 corners on here, all the way around, you've got this held nicely in place on this little jig, so you can go ahead and put the end right on there. So we're going to put the end down here like this, and once again we got to measure and make sure we got everything the way we want it, and once it's all straightened out, we'll mark that for the holes to drill. Now that we've got the end squared up, we're going to have to go ahead and mark this inside and out on both sides. That'll give us the lines that we use to position our drill holes for the screws to go straight into this board. So we'll go ahead and mark this inside and out. Hold it steady, mark it. I mark the bottom, or in this case the top. Little mark here, and also the inside. You got to mark the inside. This gives you the outline of that board drawn right on this end of this hive. Do the same thing for the back. By back I just mean the part that's further away from the camera. Now that we got them drawn on there, here's what we end up with. The outline of the end of the board, and that'll give us a nice guide to make sure we get our drill holes right in the center. We're going to put 3 screws in. We don't want to be too close to the ends, so we'll come up here just a couple of inches and we'll put one in. These boards are 3/4 of an inch wide, so that's the same thing as 6/8. So about 3/8 is the middle. 1, 2, 3 right there. That would be the middle. Same thing up here. We'll measure this one out about 3/8. 1, 2, 3. Put a little tick mark. Once we have the 6 little marks, we can drill right down through 2 boards at a time, and we'll have our ends drilled so that they will match up with the end of the hive. Now when we drill these, we want to make sure that we have the holes a little bit bigger than the screws. So what I always like to do is just take a piece of scrap, drill a hole in it, and make sure the screw fits. Now we want it to go through this board that we're drilling, but then we don't want to drill into the end of the hive that size, because we want this to have some grip when it goes into the wood. There's one. Two. Three. Now, before we drill the other side, we'll drop these screws in there, and that'll hold it in place for the rest of our drilling. Now we're just going to go ahead and drill the other end. This is the same material I make my lid out of, and my lid I want to come down 2 inches from the top of the hive up here. When it comes down 2 inches, it's about 3 1/4 wide, so I have 1 1/4 on top of the hive left to play with to put insulation or airspace, whatever I want up here above these top bars. I got 1 1/4 that is mine to do with as I please. I like using a little latch to latch my lid onto the side of the end of the hive. So I'm going to leave this much space between the legs on purpose. So I center this the way I always do. I measure in here and then measure in the other side. Make sure they both come out the same. We'll mark that side, and that gives us a guide. We'll measure down 2 inches. We'll make another little line, which we'll just use this. This is not that important. My thumb is right on the corner of the board, so this is lined up with the corner, and then this point right up here on the 2x4 is right in the edge of this line and the 2-inch line. So I can right now take my pencil, mark underneath, and I have the proper angle. Then all I have to do is turn it over and connect these 2 marks. That's the angle I want to use. So that way I can cut this piece off. There we go. So here we go. We're going to measure down 32 1/4 right there. We're going to use this pattern right here, and we're going to just duplicate the cut from above. So that's where we cut it before. We make this little mark, and we're good. All we got to do is cut that, and we have our first leg and our leg that will serve as a pattern. Okay, now we got 4 legs cut. So we'll put our first hole right here. We'll put the second one. We want to make sure we're up off this corner some. We'll put it right up here. Alright, now we've got pattern written on here. This pattern that we got right now is for the left side of the board. So I'll write left on it. When I drill this and flip it over, on the other side, when I drill it, I'll put right.